everyone. I'm very excited to be back in San Francisco. I actually flew with Colorado, where it is snowing today. So very excited to be here in the warm sphere with no snow. I'm also excited to be speaking here as a recent meetup. Whenever I first got into tech, I actually worked as an email developer. You don't know about email development, get into it. I worked as an email developer for a year and a half for the parent company of 6 different e-commerce brands, where I had to create marketing email using no React email. I couldn't use it in JML. It was Pub.js, Gold.js, and Sass, and like HTML table all the way down. Like nested table, the nested table, the nested table. I had to make sure that emails worked for all 106 email clients. I had to work with our email provider to make sure the templates weren't breaking. It was a mess, which is a lot of things that you say exist. But let's go ahead and dig into. Okay. So let's start with a quick intro. Hi, my name is Leah Thompson. Like Chris said, I'm a DevRel engineer at Laravel. If you don't know what Laravel is, it is an open source full stack framework for PHP. So you can think about what Ruby on Rails is to Ruby is what Laravel is to PHP. And I also worked as a high school geometry teacher before getting into tech, so I'm a former educator, and I live in Colorado, so I urge people that go out with them and seem like good time. But let's jump into what we're talking about today, which is what great UI matters now more than ever. And to kind of make sense of why that matters more than ever is because of AI, right? You've probably heard of the sea of sameness, which is a lot more high now because we have a lot of websites that look the same. But this isn't really a new thing. If you are to research this online, you'll find an article from before AI was even as big as it is now, just because of having component libraries and things like ShadCN coming out, where not all websites were starting to look similar and starting to look the same. But AI has just supercharged these, right? Because you can vibe code applications. You have site generators such as Lovable and E0. Even if you're using something like Codex or in Cloud Code to generate your code, we're realizing that a lot of sites are looking the same because you have elements that you add the right-hand side that are put into most of these applications. Such as the first time we have BG Indigo 600, the lucky blue buttons that you see everywhere, the gradient text in the hero, where even if the hero has black text, you'll see some gradient on some of the verbiage in the hero text. Enter or system UI font, and then the lovely 3-column feature grid with icons. So the feature grid with Bento cards, they always have the same rounded border, the same amount. The icons on the top and the Bento card will always be large. So if you look at some examples, these are the sites that we're seeing a lot, right? We're seeing that blue and purple color all over the place. We're seeing that gradient and hero text, like you said. And if you look at the picture on the right-hand side, you can see how similar those 4 sites in that example look. And even from the tweet this was taken from, people are able to see that these are AI generated. So now that we have this kind of sea of sameness, it matters more than ever that your UI is great and then a UI stands out, which is great, but how can we make our UIs stand out? And to that I say human connection. If we are stacking UIs that our human users are able to connect with, then we are able to stand out in the sea of sameness. However, it is important to note that when we are building sites, we do have to think about the agents that will be going on our site, as well as LLMs that will need to kind of go through the text. And that's important as well to make sure that sites are optimized for that. But that's not what I'm focusing on today. Today I'm focusing on our human users. So let's kind of get into how we can build out UIs that our human users can connect to and how we can kind of crack that gray UI. So this is my 5-step formula for how I kind of break down building UIs. This is from whatever the design team would pass over a design to how I would approach building it out. So the first one we have is spacing and tagging. And the emotion that this would evoke is groundedness. So by just adding spacing and padding, it makes it easier for users to digest your content. It makes it easier for them to see it and it adds clarity. So this is groundedness. The second one is font. So this is all of typography. This isn't just font families. This would be the font weight, the text color, and all of that. And this adds in the voice. So this is how you're able to emulate to your user what you want them to take away from your site. So this is where the voice starts coming together for your UI. The third one is layering. So stacking elements on top of each other. Well, if you have a card element and you want to have a button on top of it, but even like a gradient that you have behind every nail, just starting to stack elements. And this is what adds depth to their website. So you're adding dimension here and you're making it go from a flat site to something that kind of pops off the page. You're adding life to it. The fourth one is a fun element or something weird. And it might sound strange, it's something weird, what does that mean? Just something that is a little bit unique, something that makes your site stand out, but this is also a great place to kind of think of the tone of your site, what you want the user to feel, what you want to kind of project with your product, right? So for a fun element, I think like if you have a conference site, maybe have a button that's shaped like a ticket, or if you want your site to be more moody, maybe add a noise filter. Something like that, which you might see those on other sites as well, but it's still something that's unique and adds life to the page, and it's also where you start making it your site. And then the fifth one is animation and interaction. And this doesn't have to be a crazy animation. It can just be a simple on-page load animation. It could also just be a hover effect, but this is adding movement. This is what ties all of these things together. I mean, you might be thinking, okay, but AI can do this. And I'm not saying AI can't add these things, right? But I'm saying these are the steps that it matters to think about as a human. Because AI is not gonna look at this and say, okay, add something weird. It's not gonna know what you mean by that. It's not gonna know what you want your users to feel from your website. That is something that we as humans need to make sure we're paying attention to as we're building out our UIs. So let's kind of see this in Atlas. Let's start step 0. How hard is this to see? Is this okay? Red? Okay. Okay, so step 0, I just went over steps 1 to 5. Step 0 would be just putting HTML content on a page. So if you look at the right-hand side here, this is the Nightwatch Hero section. Nightwatch is a product from Laravel. It's a way to monitor your application. You go to the website. This is not what the Hero looks like. But I took that and I stripped out all of the styles from it. So right now we have just the content. So step 0 is just getting the semantic HTML down. And you can see that's what we have here on the right-hand side, or left-hand side, sorry. And notice also that the only styles that apply are the styles that we have on the body, but we don't have any styles within the component for the hero section. So now we'll go to step 1, which remember step 1 is spacing and padding. So if we go back to 0 to 1, notice now how the page already feels good. It's easier to digest the content, right? We have more clarities. Remember, I also said that this is supposed to evoke groundedness. So it's easier for a user to read our content now, and that's just by adding spacing and padding. So this is where we add our container queries, flex centering, vertical rhythm, and structural sizing. I won't get into all of the utility classes, but you can see them all here as well. That's all that's added here, plus the container and the Sado, flex, and all of that for all of the content we have. So let's go ahead and move on to the second one now, which our second step is fonts. So remember I said this is all typography. So we added our font family. We also added the font sizes, the weights, the tracking, as well as all of the text colors. And then we also added for the buttons, the border and background colors there as well. But if we follow between step 1 and step 2, look how much better that's. So this is what I mean by padding voice. Just by adding our typography settings, now it is clear to the user what we are trying to portray to them, right? It gives our site a voice. Right away, it pops out to us, don't be afraid of the dark. and we're able to connect more to this site. Now let's go to step 3. Step 3, now we have rules. So layering, like I said before, we want to kind of stack things. So here the way we layered was we added in a gradient. So the gradient that you see back here, which is the green color, we added that in. We also added a live preview of the video. So if you go back before, we had no background, so no radial gradient. We also just had a static image. So we added the video image, which is a GIF that's looping here. And we also added a button on top of that as well. So this button with the Z index as well to add that layering effect. And all of this together now makes our site pop, right? And when you go to step 2, notice how flat this looks. We have everything here, but it's just kind of blending into the page. But now that we layered, now it feels alive. So now it feels more immersive, and we have that dimension, which as a user would make me feel more intrigued. And again, also, if we look at the code here, so we added some absolute positioning for the play button to overlay it over the video at the bottom. We used some relative positioning, we have the V indices, and all of that is what we use for its layering here, as well as that radial gradient I said. And then step 4, now we're at the fun element for something weird. So for this one, the something weird that I chose was the light effect that we have for Nightwatch, which for this, Nightwatch is a way to monitor your applications, right? So the idea when the designers were creating this is that your application's in the dark if you're not monitoring it, but with Nightwatch, we're shining a light on it, you're able to see it, and we're able to portray that with this light, right? This is something that's kind of unique, it's kind of weird, but it's able to portray the voice for the applications. It's able to portray what we want the users to think of the product. And then we also added a noise filter, which kind of, let's see, but we have the noise filter here as well, which adds more depth and adds more moodiness to it as well to kind of add to the darkness of it. So all we did for this step was add a noise overlay and then add the light beams, which are just static at this point. But if we go from step 3 to step 4, see how much better we're able to portray that and kind of tie in with the H1 here of don't be afraid of the dark, just by adding these 2 things that are kind of unique. And then one more step, we have step 5, and now is where we get to add card movement. So this is where we add the animation and the animation and interaction. And for this one, we added on page load, so you go to 4, and then 5. Notice how all of our text up here is loading in gradually. I just used Think Tailwind CSS Motion, so a package for this. But you could use anything. You could write just custom CSS keyframe for this. You could bring in another animation library. The idea here is just to add in movement. So any on page load, any other effects. Here, if this was still a static image at the bottom, having this be a GIF that's looping over, it's a great way to add movement in. But there's also a video modal that hawks up here as well to add in movement. And it doesn't show on this one, but if I go to Final, notice also we have the light beams now are moving. So I also added an animation for the light beams. In step 4, I just added the light beams but then static. Now in 5, I am animating them and having them move across the page to shine on it through the darkness here. I forgot to step 4 though. You can see because I was using that package to bring in the on-page load animation, all I had to do was add a motion preset here up for here for the headline, and then I added the same thing for the video as well. So yeah, that kind of shows how I would go about building out a UI from when design, passing the design to as I'm building it out, and how I use these steps in my daily workflow when I am building out UI steps and stuff. And so, hopefully I gave you a guideline that you can use whenever you are building out UI. Again, it's not about saying AI can't do this, but it's about saying these are the things that we as humans should be thinking about and being intentional about when we are building out UIs, even if you are utilizing agentic workflows when creating these as well. Because like Chris said, it's about craft, right? Thinking about our craft as we're building it, and hopefully you're able to use these steps when you are creating new applications. Thank you all.